Hello and welcome to another edition of the Stench of Truth. The occult superstars like their statements of occult symbolism by having Pope John Paul II beatified on May 1st, which is an occult day. We have, of course, the royal wedding on the eve of Walpurgis night, and all the other mystical and occult symbolism associated with that. It's almost like they're saying, look at us, we're a bunch of occult stooges. Even the so-called Catholic Church the same way. I'm just going to make a couple of brief comments here. I'm going to try to make this very short. So, first of all, the backlash that is going on against the Paul Ryan shove your granny into the oven budget. The GOP is dismissing this as being manufactured dissent from MoveOn.org and other organizations, when it's quite clearly a backlash from seniors and others who recognize that the program is one of the greatest programs that was ever enacted in this country and has been extremely successful. And some of the provisions that could take place are outlined in the platform for the future that I've been advocating for a long time now, and one of which is to allow Medicare to negotiate lower drug prices from the gouging, rapacious, psychopathic, capitalistic pharmaceutical industry in this country, which charges us exorbitant and ridiculous rates for drugs in this country because they can. The government facilitates them in this. Do not forget that Obama already made a deal with the pharmaceutical industry when he gouged $500 billion out of Medicare previously, because he started the ball rolling on the destruction of Medicare. Do not forget this. He made a deal with the pharmaceutical industry that said that they would not allow Medicare to negotiate lower drug prices. That would be one way that they could save hundreds of billions of dollars and allow for the continuation of Medicare into the future as highly sustainable. Now, the other thing is this. Allow Medicare patients to shop around for medical care. That is, if they want to go to Canada to get a cheaper procedure done, allow them to go and allow Medicare to pay this. In this case, we do not have it. Medicare only covers things that are done in the United States. See, this is the idea of the hypocrisy of these people. If I were to mention this to Paul, stab my granny in the eye, Ryan, he would denounce it as being no kind of answer, when on the other hand he would promote the idea of free market shopping around whenever he shovels a stupid and completely worthless voucher into the hands of seniors to tell them to go shop on the open market and use the free market to try to find a cheaper rate somewhere and the best insurance policy you can buy with a useless voucher. So on the one hand, he's going to promote the idea of the so-called free market, but then restrict the so-called free market and say that it is in no way effective for the salvation of Medicare, which is one of the greatest programs in the history of the United States and one of the most successful. And that's why I've been calling for a single-payer national Medicare program for everybody. And you can look at more of that on my platform for the future. So there are basic changes that could be made to Medicare, of course, which would allow it to be extremely effective and cost-effective. And don't forget that the overhead costs in Medicare is about 1%. The vast majority of the cost of health care in this country comes from overhead from private health insurance companies, and the only thing the privatization of Medicare will do is to increase the profit margin of the psychopathic capitalists in this country by shoveling more money into the private health insurance industry, thus increasing the tremendous overhead costs and creating an even greater health industry problem in this country in the future. I wanted to talk briefly about the Libya intervention and talk about the idea of war crimes, where we had the obvious attempted assassination of Gaddafi that ended up killing his son and grandchildren, and no evidence of so-called war crimes and brutality by Gaddafi, who I am not a supporter of and who I do not say is a great man or anything of this kind. But this was the rationale for intervention in the first place, and the only one committed war crimes is NATO, which the U.S. is the head of. So basically, in the interests of stopping war crimes that were not happening and humanitarian disasters that were not happening, we are committing humanitarian disasters and war crimes. So that is just absurd on the face of it. Gas prices. Well, sure, Obama can be blamed, like Mitt Romney says, but in actuality, it's not so much to do with the oil and gas subsidies that the government gives to these oil producers, although I'm all for eliminating them. It is entirely speculation, and no one will even slightly avert their gaze to look over at Wall Street, because that's where the problem is. 100% of it is in Wall Street. Negotiating lower pharmaceutical prices. Wall Street controls this because pharmaceutical industry produces tremendous profits for Wall Street. Okay, so you can't negotiate lower prices through Medicare. You also have Wall Street driving up the cost of gas at the pump. It's them. It is speculation. The oil and gas subsidies have been there. We've not added them. We've not subtracted them. The only other factor that's at play here is speculation. And this is where we have the problem in this country. It's the speculation. It is the paper transfers. It is the paper wealth that is created by the psychopathic capitalists on Wall Street. It is profit at the cost of everything else. It doesn't matter. Trample your own dad into the mud for an extra penny. That's the only motive here. And so, why do we have high gas prices? Because of speculation. And what could be done about that? Well, very simply, they could enact something like they did in Germany, where they ended naked short selling. But in this case, we could merely pass a law that says no speculation in energy futures, period. And that would end the giant fluctuation in gas prices overnight. And no one will do this because, why? Because all of these people are owned, body and soul, by the psychopathic capitalists of Wall Street. It's as simple as that. And that's why you will not see any of the very simple, straightforward, and direct changes that would result in the better delivery, not only of health care, but also of energy in the form of gas. And you could look at inflation as being a total scam, where they don't include energy and food prices, which both have gone up dramatically. Well, they try to claim that inflation is still relatively low. And on a final note, in interventionism and imperialism and war crimes, one could look around the world and see many examples of countries that are openly murdering their citizens for protesting against a repressive regime. And Syria, of course, pops into mind first, and Yemen and some other countries in Africa and around the Middle East. If there was ever a need for intervention to so-called protect the people from the repressive, bloody regime that they follow, it would be in some of these other countries, not Libya. But, there is no legal basis for intervention by the United States in any of these countries. None. So, just some thoughts for today. Thank you. Good day.